Today, we're going to be making Minecraft absolutely brutal with mods. The game that you know and love and probably use to get yourself in a nice calm state of mind is now going to be a constant battle for your survival. And honestly, for any of you that actually give this a try, I apologize because I'm not lying when I say that this is absolutely ridiculous. Of course, you can evaluate the mods for yourself and remove ones that you believe are maybe a little over the top, but regardless, the challenge is going to be increased substantially. So anyway, let's go ahead and check out how we're going to do it. So to start things off, we're going to be adding a few mods that add some pretty powerful enemies to the game. And honestly, I'm going to let you know now, these things are pretty dangerous, but for the most part, they're going to be the least of your worries. And the first of these mods we'll be including is Mutant Monsters. And this is an updated version of the Mutant Beasts mod, which was an updated version of the Mutant Creatures mod. And to this day, I'd still say this is one of the best mods that adds new, kind of boss-like creatures to the game. They have really cool looking models and animations, and best of all, are very dangerous. Really, any of the creatures included in this mod have a very high chance of killing you if you're not prepared for them. So try to make sure you are. And in addition to Mutant Monsters, we'll be including Mutant More, which is inspired by the Mutant Creatures mod. And this will give us an additional 3 more mutant creatures to battle against. And these are just as dangerous, if not more so than the mutant creature counterparts. And I also noticed they have some boss music, which is pretty cool. Next, I've included the Upgrade Aquatic mod, and honestly, pretty much the only reason I'm including this is because it adds these absolute abominations to bodies of water. And trust me when I say this, if you get caught by one of these guys, you're probably a goner. They are avoidable, as they seem to hunt by sonar or something like that, but really, just don't get caught by them. After that, I'm gonna do something really mean. So, you know how zombies aren't too bad, but baby zombies are pretty awful? Well, I'm installing a mod that adds babies for every single mob in the game that tries to kill you. And as one would expect, the baby versions of pretty much any of these creatures are horrendous to go against. Trust me, you're gonna love it when there's a baby Enderman that you pretty much just can't hit because it's so fast. Or a baby skeleton, as if there needed to be a more evil version of skeletons. Truly, this has to be one of the more horrifying mods to exist, and that's why I'm including it on the list. And finally, the last mod I'll be adding for this particular section is Nif Spiders, and this isn't necessarily adding a new creature to the game, however, it makes spiders so much more difficult they might as well be a new mob, as they can now crawl across any surface, doesn't matter what direction it's facing, they're gonna find a way to reach you. Alright, now for this next section, we're going to be focusing on adding mods that simply make the creatures in your game far more dangerous to come across. And honestly, you're not going to be coming across them, they're just going to find you. And the first one we'll be installing is Improved Mobs, which is going to increase the difficulty of mobs significantly in quite a few ways, to be honest. For starters, the mod introduces a difficulty system, so as time passes, mobs' damage, health, and speed are all going to increase. And where this mod gets really wild is all the abilities it introduces. If you try to escape, say by building really high, a mob is just going to summon something to fly on and reach you pretty easily. If you try to escape in the water, same issue. It's going to summon a guardian and probably just follow right behind you. And in addition to this, mobs are also going to be able to use things like ender pearls, flint and steel, TNT, and lava buckets. So overall, this mod alone is going to be making the game a whole lot more difficult. But don't worry, we're going to continue and make this much worse. So now we'll be installing progressive difficulty. And what this mod is going to do is separate the game into stages. And once you pass these stages, it's going to get more difficult. And the specific moments in which your game will get more difficult is when you enter the Nether and when you defeat the Ender Dragon. So once you accomplish these things, mobs are only going to be harder to kill. And probably the other feature you'll notice most often is the bleeding it introduces. A fair amount of the time when you get hit by something, you're going to start bleeding, and this lasts for some time. It's kind of like a poison effect, to be honest. And the only way to stop it is with a bandage. And you may be thinking that this is kind of unfair, and it is, but you can also make mobs bleed, so there's at least that. And yet another mod we'll be installing which adds some truly horrifying AI to creatures is Nightmare Epic Siege. And honestly, this might be the most horrifying one yet. On its own, this mod makes it so enemies will target you from much farther away, creepers will detonate regardless of whether or not there's a wall separating you from them, and zombies even have the ability to dig to you pretty much wherever you are. And in combination with the 2 previously installed mods, pretty much every single mob you come across is going to be a huge battle, and when there's a bunch of them, things aren't going to be looking good for you. Now, for our next mod, we're going to be focusing on making the peaceful creatures in your game not peaceful anymore, and we'll be doing this with the Angry Mobs mod. And here, you can select between 3 different settings. The first will make it so if you attack a mob, it'll fight back. The second setting will make it so if you attack a mob, it will attack back along with all of its friends. And the third setting is going to make it so when the mobs see you, they're just going to attack you immediately. At this point, there's truly going to be nothing left in your world that's friendly. And finally, the last mod I'll be installing for this particular section is Enhanced Celestials. As if you needed more insanity in your world, you can now have blood moons, which is simply going gonna make it so an unbelievable amount of mobs will spawn, and honestly, at this point, your odds of survival are pretty much nothing. Now, in all honesty, if you install all of these mods from this particular section, you probably won't survive for very long. It's a good challenge, but, you know, I've included them for a reason. If you'd like to pass on one or two of these mods, I don't blame you. Now, next, I'm gonna focus on making caves more difficult, because why should you get a break when you're down there? I mean, not to say you were gonna have one before, but now it's just gonna, again, be much worse. And the first mod we'll be installing here is harder branch mining. And this is a mod that's gonna essentially force you to explore caves if you want to find ores. And the reason is, this mod makes it so the farther down you go, the longer it takes to break blocks, unless it's an ore, of course. So strip mining is still technically an option, but it's just gonna take forever now. Next, I've added coal explosion, and this is a simple little mod that makes it so if you accidentally place a torch on coal, you're probably dead, because it's gonna result in a massive explosion. I'm also gonna be including the difficult spawners mod, which is gonna make it so all the spawners in your world are a little more difficult to get rid of. Not only do they take way longer to break, but once you do, you're gonna get the wither effect and have these little creatures chase and attack you, which is never fun, especially considering what's already gonna be coming after you. And next up, we're gonna be installing both True Darkness and Engulfing Darkness. And True Darkness essentially just removes the minimum light level and sets it all the way to 0. So if you aren't placing torches while you're underground, it is literally going to be pitch black. And to make things worse, Engulfing Darkness is gonna make it so if you're standing somewhere that's pitch black, you'll pretty much immediately just start taking damage. So now not only do you have to worry about physical threats, you also have to worry about things that you can't even see. And after that, I've added the realistic torches mod, which is gonna make it so after a certain amount of time, your torches will die and you have to relight them. And this by default is an hour, however you can configure this as low as a minute. And you know, in combination with that Engulfing Darkness mod, this is gonna be pretty horrible. And finally, the last mod I'll be adding for this section, which makes torches even more annoying, is fragile torches. Once you have this mod installed, both players and mobs have the potential to break torches just by walking into them, and you can customize the odds of this happening all the way up to 100%. So, you know, if you want every single torch to be destroyed, if anything comes near it, you can do that. Now, finally, the last section of mods we'll be focusing on are kind of just miscellaneous mods that cover a variety of different features that, once again, are gonna make your game more difficult. And the first of these mods is limited lives. And what this mod does is kind of turns your game into a semi-hardcore version of itself, in that you can still die, but you can only die a certain amount of times, which you can customize. The catch is, each time you do die, you're gonna spawn with less health, so by the time you hit your last life, you're gonna be pretty weak, and honestly, things will be looking even worse for you. But hey, this mod's still more forgiving than hardcore mode, so in a way, I'm helping you guys out here. You're welcome. Next is a really fun one. We're gonna be installing a mod called Bigger Stacks, and this is a really cool mod that lets you have essentially unlimited blocks in a single stack. So naturally, we're gonna use this mod to completely cripple your carrying capacity. I decided to set the max stack size to 16. You can really do whatever you'd like, honestly. You can get rid of stacks altogether. Another interesting mod I've included is Hypothermic, and this mod takes the freezing functionality from deep snow and applies that to cold oceans. And once again, this is just another mod that gives you yet another thing to worry about. And this is where I decided to stop adding more mods, because honestly, we're already at the point where, again, this game is essentially impossible now, but you can still make things worse. You can add a mod like Tough as Nails, which is going to require you to watch your body temperature and drink water, stuff like that. But I promise, things are already going to be difficult enough that you probably don't want to be worrying about it. But hey, if you want to really just go all in, go for it. And there you have it. With this combination of mods, you're never going to truly feel safe in this game, and you'll very likely be pushed to your limits. If you guys would like to see a part 2 for this video in the future, definitely comment some mods below that you think I should include in that, and I'll take a look at them and see if we can make it work. And if you'd like to download any of the mods, you can find them in the description. And anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, thanks for watching.